Her text arrived in the middle of the evening, casual and almost playful. Stuck at the office, boring meeting. I read it while sitting inside the very restaurant she thought was miles away from me. 2 tables. That was all the distance between the truth and the lie she was typing. I didn't look up right away. I already knew what I would see. When I finally lifted my eyes, there she was, laughing softly, leaning far closer than professionalism allowed, her hand brushing her boss's arm as if it belonged there. The lighting was dim, the mood intimate, nothing like an office meeting. I watched quietly, unnoticed, as she tilted her head toward him, listening in a way she hadn't listened to me in months. There was no confusion anymore. No, maybe I'm overthinking. This was clear, public, intentional. My heart didn't race, it slowed. That's how I knew something had shifted permanently. I didn't feel anger, I felt awareness. Confrontation would give her control of the moment. Silence would take it away. I stayed seated, calm, invisible, letting the truth finish revealing itself before I touched my phone. Some lies collapse best when you don't interrupt them. I unlocked my phone slowly, my hand steady, and typed my reply carefully. Hope it's productive. Polite, neutral, harmless. I attached one photo and pressed send. The picture wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. It showed her profile clearly, her boss leaning in, their table number visible behind them. Proof without commentary. I leaned back in my chair and waited. From across the room, I watched her phone light up. At first, she smiled out of habit, expecting reassurance. Then she opened the message. The color drained from her face instantly, like the air had been pulled from her lungs. Her smile collapsed. Her body went rigid. She froze mid-movement, her phone trembling slightly in her hand. Her boss noticed right away, leaning in to ask what was wrong. She didn't answer him. She couldn't. She scanned the room in panic, suddenly aware she was no longer hidden. Conversations around them slowed, chairs stopped shifting. Even the waiter hesitated. The atmosphere changed in seconds. Silence spread across the table like a shadow. I didn't look away. I didn't react. I let the truth sit between us, heavy and undeniable. Her eyes finally found mine. The moment our gazes locked, something inside her broke. There was no anger in my expression, no accusation, just certainty. That terrified her more than shouting ever could. She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair backward. Her boss reached for her arm, confused, but she pulled away sharply. People around them pretended not to stare. But everyone felt it. The shift, the tension, the unspoken collapse of something private in a public space. I stayed seated, paid my bill calmly, and stood without rushing. As I walked past her table, she whispered my name, her voice cracking, begging me to stop. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Words would only dilute the moment. Outside, the night air felt cooler, cleaner. My phone started buzzing immediately. Calls, messages, apologies stacking one after another. I didn't check any of them. I already had the truth. Silence wasn't avoidance anymore. It was closure forming in real time. Betrayal hurts, but certainty heals faster than confusion ever could. She came home later that night, long after the restaurant lights had dimmed. Her confidence was gone. Her voice was smaller. She tried to explain before I could speak, words tumbling over each other. Stress, pressure, misunderstandings. I listened without interrupting. Listening doesn't mean accepting. When she finally stopped, I told her calmly that I didn't confront her because I wanted to see who she was when she thought I wasn't watching. That silence hit harder than anger. I told her the text wasn't the betrayal. The lie behind it was. She cried, saying it wasn't what it looked like. I reminded her that sometimes what it looks like is exactly what it is. She asked why I didn't make a scene. I told her scenes are for people who still want explanations. I didn't. She realized then that something irreversible had happened. Not because of the photo, but because of how calmly I ended the lie. There was no argument left to win. The days that followed were strangely quiet. No shouting, no dramatic confrontations, just space, distance, reality settling in. She tried harder than ever, checking in, cooking meals, asking questions, but the dynamic had changed permanently. I was no longer reacting. I was choosing. Friends sensed something was wrong, but I kept my explanation simple. Truth doesn't need storytelling. I realized how much energy I had spent maintaining peace at my own expense. That single photo freed me from doubt. It ended the guessing, the wondering, the silent self-blame. She admitted she never thought I'd catch her like that. I told her I never thought she'd risk everything so casually. That honesty landed hard. Trust doesn't shatter loudly. It disappears quietly the moment clarity arrives. When we finally talked about separation, there were no raised voices, only acceptance. She said the moment her phone lit up would haunt her forever. I believed her because that wasn't humiliation. It was accountability arriving without warning. I didn't take pleasure in it. I took peace. Peace doesn't argue, it moves forward. People ask why I didn't confront her at the table. The answer is simple. Confrontation gives liars a chance to perform. Silence forces them to face themselves. That night, I didn't win her back. I won myself back. My wife texted, stuck at the office, boring meeting, while I sat 2 tables away watching her get far too close to her boss. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I replied politely, sent one photo, and let the truth freeze the room. The moment she realized I was watching is something I'll never forget. Not because it hurt her, but because it marked the exact moment the lie ended and my clarity began.